I want to thank the members of the media for joining us. We want to brief the media and the community on two fatal shootings, one overnight and one on Wednesday. Before I provide more detail, I just want to share that our hearts are very heavy right now. This is two senseless shootings, the lives of two young members of our community taken, a 13-year-old girl on Broadway and Mortimer, 12:30 a.m. overnight, leaving a party at roughly 11:30 a.m., milling around with some friends, and is shot. She was not the target of the shooting, according to our police. An innocent bystander in this shooting that took her life at 12:30 a.m. On Wednesday, at Perkins Park on Woodlawn Avenue at approximately 9:30 p.m., a group of young people were gathering. Again, a vehicle comes down the street, opens fire, shots are exchanged, and Columbus Brooks, an 18-year-old innocent bystander, not involved in that activity, but in the park with friends, loses his life. This is unacceptable. This is intolerable. The level of gun violence and the availability of illegal weapons is just absolutely senseless. That something cannot be done, is not being done in the United States of America to end this. We are losing members of our community. We are losing members of our families to senseless, illegal gun violence. I will say, in the case of the 13-year-old young girl whose life was taken, there is good video of that incident. The police are working on it. My message is to those responsible: do not be comfortable. Do not be comfortable. There is video, and the police will do everything that they possibly can to follow up on that. As with any homicide, any shooting in this community, one homicide, one shooting, one too many. Again, our hearts are heavy. Our hearts are broken at the loss of life of two innocent young people, a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old, to senseless gun violence with illegal weapons. To provide you with more detail, I'm now going to turn things over to our Police Commissioner, Joseph Gramaglia.
Thank you, sir. So last night there was a gathering involving dozens of people at a house party several blocks away from where the shooting occurred. There were people out in the yard, there were adults, there were children. By all indications, there were no real issues until the end of the night, about 11:30. There was a disturbance call where Buffalo police officers responded. There was some kind of a disturbance that caused our police officers to disperse the crowd and end that party. That ended without further incident. A short time later, some of that group had moved down to Broadway Jefferson. There's a market over there in a parking lot where there were a few people milling around. At that point, officers pulled up and suggested that they continue to move on. We had officers that were still around the area. It was, again, a little time later, about 12:30, as the mayor had stated, that our victim, our 13-year-old victim, and a few other people were on the sidewalk on Mortimer at Broadway when a vehicle drove by, fired, we believe at this time, one shot, striking the 13-year-old victim. She was declared deceased on the scene. We have no indication whatsoever that she was the intended target. We are investigating information that there may have been someone targeted amongst the people that were there, but as I said, there is no indication whatsoever that this poor 13-year-old girl was targeted. I know there's some information out there on whether or not stolen Kias were involved. We are investigating the theft of some Kias. We are looking for a couple of colored vehicles, a red or a black Kia that may be involved. We've got very good video of the shooting. We are continuing to collect more video, and our canvas area of the video is going to be wide and extensive. Our homicide detectives have been out all morning, all day, canvassing as much video. They have appointments with other locations to get video. This isn't just a video canvas of the immediate area of the shooting. We will be going as far back as the party location and beyond that. So this is an extensive investigation. Our detectives were in all night, and a new batch of detectives were brought in this morning and are continuing to work this. We will work this vigorously. With that, we'll take any questions.
Can you confirm that there was a stolen Kia in the area of where the shooting took place?
I can't confirm that there was a stolen Kia because we are still working to identify that. We have reported information that a Kia was involved. So now we are backtracking, working on that. We will place a vehicle in a place, and then we will get that information, and then at that point we will be able to say whether it was stolen or not. So that's the early information that we have. Once we get that car, and we will find out what that car is, at that point then we will be able to confirm that it was in fact stolen.
How many people were at that party? And then you had mentioned that it broke down, people started to leave the area, disperse, but how many people originally were at that party?
We're getting some varying numbers, but there were at the minimum several dozen. As I said, there were no indications of any issues until about 11:30. A disturbance broke out. A neighbor called. People are being very cooperative at that end of the investigation, and people left the location at that point.
From the video, are you guys able to see the suspect or suspects who did this?
I'm not going to get into what is contained in the video. We still have a lot of video review, but I don't want to get into the evidentiary nature of what we have. I just want those out there to know that we do have this on video. As the mayor said, don't be comfortable is a gentle way of putting this. We are going to put everything behind and use all of our resources, including our partner law enforcement agencies that are always here to help us, and we are going to do everything possible to find the perpetrator or perpetrators that are responsible for this.
So do you need help looking for any suspects, or if somebody had a red or black Kia stolen, are you looking for somebody who might have had a stolen Kia recently?
So we're looking through those reports. Obviously, those cars get reported stolen quite frequently. The unfortunate reality with those vehicles is it's usually the next morning when someone finds out that their car is gone. So we're looking through all of those reports. We will look for specific colors. We will narrow down then something that fits what we believe. We've got a general description out for our patrol vehicles. Any vehicle that meets the general description of what we're looking for, we are going to take those vehicles in, impound them, and they are going to be processed. So we're going to start wide, and then we're going to narrow down.
So the suspect vehicle wasn't recovered at the scene, right?
No, was not recovered at the scene, correct.
How many officers were still in that area at that time?
I don't have a number. I just know that there were officers kind of around. There were several block area. The information that we have put out to officers, we normally put out to officers, but especially, the last several days, it's gotten very hot out, is that don't let groups congregate. People obviously have a right to hang out in parks and other places, but if something seems like there's, the potential of any trouble, we're going to park our car there. We're going to add our flashers on, and we're going to be there as a deterrent. But, they pulled up at that market and suggested that they continue moving on. There were people going in multiple directions.
But were police there close enough to hear the single gunshot and perhaps chase after the vehicle?
We have no reports of any officer hearing that, right? No. Yeah, we have no reports of any officers detecting gunfire.
Or anyone else? That party was at a house, or was it at a?
It was at a house, yeah.
One more, or the activity, the gun violence that's happened over the past week or so. By our count, it looks like there have been 4 homicides, and there have been 10 shootings according to city data. Can you speak to that spike? I mean, it seems like it is the spike, but could you put that in some sort of timeline in terms of the spikes that you've seen in other parts of the year and to start off the summer?
Yeah, I can. In the first half of this year, we've seen substantial declines, about a 47% reduction in shooting victims from the year before. So a lot of the strategies that we are employing have been working, but I'm not foolish to think that we're going to rest on our laurels, and we certainly understand that spikes are going to happen, and it's how we respond to those spikes to stop them, to prevent those retaliations. So it's been warm. There's been a nice weather after a stretch of rain, and unfortunately there has been a number of shootings going back the past week, and they are all getting investigated. We have additional patrols deployed into these areas to put an end to this, to stop this escalation of shootings that have occurred over the last week. Like I said, unfortunately, you do get spikes from time to time, and it's how we respond to them to stop them that we're working on.
Let me just say, any loss of life is terrible. This is the taking of the life of 2 teenagers, 2 innocent teenagers in our community. We all want to express our deepest condolences to the families of these teenagers. Some of us have had the opportunity to speak to members of the Brooks family, Columbus Brooks's family. They are heartbroken. They are in pain. We share that pain. To any family that has lost a loved one to senseless violence and homicide, I just want to remind you again that the Buffalo Police Department never stops looking for those responsible for these crimes. Whether it is a day old, 10 years old, or 30 years old, the Buffalo Police Department will not stop looking for those responsible. I just want to mention, in addition to Commissioner Gramaglia, we're also joined by First Deputy Commissioner Al Wright, Deputy Commissioner Dawn Kent, and our Chief of Detectives.
Thank you, everybody. Any updates we'll provide through email or text through the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.